All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us for today's program, Job Opportunities with Department of Defense Contractors. When local people think of Department of Defense Contractors, easy for me to say, they automatically think that the large companies of Raytheon and Lockheed Martin or Bay and E are their only options. But this presentation will provide details on employment opportunities working at Hanscom Air Force Base, working for smaller companies, providing support to the DoD. These opportunities encompass not only engineering and technical support positions, but also project management and business operations positions. So this program is led by Stephen Trudeau, who's the corporate recruiter for Oasis Systems, which is a DoD contractor located locally in Burlington, at least as of when we did this a couple years ago. I host Stephen every year, and I always forget to update his bio. But Stephen has been supporting the DoD industry for over 20 years, and is very familiar with the work being conducted at Hanscom and the type of candidates being hired to support the various efforts at Hanscom. So all 45 of us or so, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Stephen for joining us here this afternoon. And Stephen, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Very good. Robert, thank you very much. Good to see you as always. I appreciate the kind introduction there. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, Robert wasn't lying. I am Stephen Trudeau. And so I am here to present to you opportunities that are out there, possibly working at Hanscom Air Force Base. As Robert alluded to, I've been doing this for over 20 years. The gray hair kind of gives it away. And so I've been around the block. Full disclosure, this is my 22nd year at Hanscom. And so not many people know about the base or the operations that go on there. So that's what kind of this is about, is kind of giving you a little information about that and the various opportunities that are available at Hanscom. So I've got a short slide presentation I can go through. It's about 9 slides. So I'm going to share my screen right now. Bear with me just a moment here. And we'll make it. So a little bit about Hanscom itself. All right. Again, you can't see it from the highway, so not many people know it's actually there. And so it's located right off Route 128, actually, in Bedford, Mass. It sits right in between Bedford and Concord. And it's not many people are aware, it's actually the last active military base in New England. For those people who've been around for a while, you may remember numerous years ago, Senators Kerry and Kennedy were fighting off the base closure movement that was going on numerous years ago. And that's when they closed the base down in Cape Cod and closed the Navy base up in Maine. And then they closed the Navy base at Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So Hanscom is the last active military base. Now, what makes it different is that this isn't your traditional Air Force base. It's not like you see, these Top Gun aircraft flying in and out. You don't see tanks going up and down the street. There's no big convoys or movement going on. It's more of a technological center. And I'll get to that in just a moment. I talked about the Top Gun planes a moment ago. All right, you do see aircraft coming in and out of there, but those aren't military aircraft. As you're traveling along 128, or if you're walking along the Minuteman bike path and you see planes flying over, those are either commercial aircraft, such as like, FedEx, UPS, but it's mostly small private individuals, the small company aircraft that you see there. Hanscom is actually a private field. It's a commercial airport, not a military airfield whatsoever. And every once in a while, you'll see either, the Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins, they're all fly out of there as well, because it's easy in, easy out rather than trying to get in and out of Logan. And we all know how chaotic that can be. Before the pandemic started, over 8,000 people worked on the base every day. That's a lot of people. Since we've been through the pandemic, obviously, like everyone else, we started going virtual and started working virtually, and kind of like we're doing right now. Everything was done through Zoom or Teams. And now, I don't want to use the words out of the pandemic, but now that we are slowly arising from all of that chaos, Hanscom is still mostly a hybrid work environment. We're now, the supervisors, the military leadership want to see folks 1, maybe 2 days a week, but letting folks at the same time feel safe and secure and still working from home. And again, I'll tie in a little more on that in a little bit here. As you can see on the slide, there are 3 types of employees that work on base. The active military, so again, it is an active military base, government employees, and then the defense contractor staff, like the folks that I hire. Whoops. So what I talked about the technical base that it is. So what happens is that the Air Force doesn't have the technical staff themselves. So what they do is they have contracts out to companies like mine, Oasis Systems, that provide this technical support. Now, as Robert alluded to in my introduction, Oasis Systems, we provide engineering, project management, and technical support services. And yes, we're based out of Burlington, and our primary contract is at Hanscom, but these contracts all kind of finger out to different bases all around the country. As Robert alluded to, our headquarters are right there in Burlington. If you're on 128 North and you try to get on Route 3 North, there's a couple of buildings on the right-hand side. And at nighttime, you'll see there's 2 big signs. One is for Millipore, and the other one says Oasis Systems on it. So the next time you get on Route 3 North, take a look to the right and you'll see Oasis Systems and you'll say, hey, that's where that guy Trudeau works. That's us. Now, not to get into a little or a lot of military jargon, the work at Hanscom is considered supporting the Air Force Life Cycle Management Center. And of course, they all call it AFLICMIC because no one wants to say Air Force Life Cycle Management Center. So you'll see how this all ties together here in the next couple of slides. So the analogy of the work we like to do, I tie into this aircraft right here. For those people that aren't aware, this is called the AWACS aircraft, Airborne Warning and Control Systems. It's an acronym. So that big flying disc you see on top, that's actually a radar. And what this plane does is this plane sits at about 50,000 feet or so and just is like the slow turtle just floating in the sky. And what it's doing is that radar is acting like an air traffic control tower and looking at planes in a 1,000-mile radius. And it's identifying aircraft before they even get close to the area. And there are 24 of these planes flying all over the world. So there are planes, the plane program office is based out of Hanscom. Now, again, I've told you, this is like an air traffic control tower. Inside that plane, the front part of the plane is clearly the military members who are flying it, but the back of the aircraft is where all of the terminals are. If you've seen a picture of an air traffic control tower, whether it's in a movie or in a documentary or anything, you know what I'm talking about. It's all these gigantic monitors, and there's a bunch of folks looking at them trying to identify inbound and outbound aircraft. So I tell you all of that. What if the colonel says, hey, I want to upgrade those monitors from a 24-inch screen to a 30-inch screen? What does that entail? Can we do that? Well, you just can't go down to Best Buy to go pick up 30-inch monitors and come load them on aircraft because it ties into the total capability of the aircraft. 24-inch monitor weighs more than, I said it backwards. 30-inch monitor weighs more than a 24-inch monitor. What is the weight times all of the monitors in the aircraft? If the plane weighs more, then it has to be fueled more. And if we're wasting more fuel on a quicker basis, then it has to be refueled in the sky. That means we need the refueling plane to come quicker. What's the electronic capabilities? Is there more power that's needed? Is it going to drain the batteries in the aircraft more? Does it tie into the network of the aircraft? Are we going to absolutely crash the network in the aircraft? Can it tie into the communications? Because we need to communicate with the ground. Well, what we see communicate to the ground? So these loose scenarios I've painted for you are what our engineering and technical staff do. Is that we need to figure this out for the military. They can't figure it out for themselves. These loose scenarios I have are what our folks do on a daily basis. And of course, there's administrative staff, there's financial staff, logistics staff. And again, I'll get to that in a minute here. Again, this is all going to start tying together really quickly for you folks. But I wanted just to kind of give you an idea of one project that we're working on and the types of staff that are needed. So here are some of the types of positions that are needed. So the administrative staff I alluded to just a moment ago. Someone's going to answer the phone. Someone's got to talk to, be the front desk for the colonel. Not everyone gets to talk to the colonel. The colonel's like the wizard in the Wizard of Oz. Not everyone gets to see the colonel. Someone's going to be that gatekeeper before the colonel. Cybersecurity you see listed there, certainly in this day and age. I mean, we just got to protect every network that's out there. Financial managers, certainly the colonel needs to know what his budget is. What can we afford? How much can we afford? When can we afford? All those things. Logistics specialists. As I mentioned, there's 24 planes around the world. All right, where do we get these monitors from that I talked about a moment ago? How do we get them to Japan? How do we get them to Korea, Brazil, where the planes are going to be next? The network engineers, again, using my loose scenario, how do we upgrade those, the networks within the plane to be able to work with the new monitors? Program managers, you've got all of these requests and projects going on around the world. You need experienced program managers to kind of be that person spinning the plates type of deal of how do we get everything done on a timely basis that this project gets completed in a timely manner. Now, again, let's back the truck up for a second. This is an active military program. This is not research and development. All right, so the mission, the applications are in real world scenario. So we need, when we say we need to have this done in the next 60 days, it has to happen in 60 days because it's real world activity going on. Software engineers, software developers, those are needed as well to possibly write code or possibly work with the engineering team on applications that need to be developed out there and put in the aircraft. Systems engineers and test managers, certainly test people to go in there and test everything and make sure the monitors work as provided and that there's no glitches through the different scenarios. And certainly the systems engineers, the engineering team is vital through all this. They're the ones who have to figure out that fueling problem I told you ago. It's one of those algebra equations we learned as kids. If a train leaves New York at 5 p.m. and has 3 gallons of gas, et cetera, those engineering folks are vital to the missions and the operations that are going on. Now, as Robert alluded to back in his introduction of me, what makes the work we do every day different than, say, the likes of Raytheon, Boeing, the people who make those aircraft, the AWACS aircraft, Lockheed Martin, BAE, formerly known as Sanders up in Nashua, New Hampshire. What makes us different than all of those large companies is that companies like mine, we don't make anything. We don't have any plants. There's no asset to produce, nothing along those lines. All those big companies have to do that. We, with these positions here, you can see that we're working hand in hand with the Air Force and helping active military programs get continued to, as the old analogy says, bigger, better, faster, using the modern technology that's out there. Now, let's go to the next slide, and I'll continue on. Some of the other companies that are out there, some are a little larger than ours, some are a little bit smaller, but we're all doing relatively the same type of work I just alluded to that Oasis Systems does. They all have contracts at Hanscom Air Force Base. They're all doing something technical based, project management based, but all those positions I alluded to a few moments ago, they all have the same type of positions. Now, the technical staff have either a military or DoD background. These are the preferred type of candidates that I'm looking for on a daily basis. But the key is these folks who have a military or DoD background have an active security clearance. Now, it's one of those scenarios that there are not enough people in this neck of the woods who have the technical background and technical skill set. It's just a fact of life. If you go to anywhere else in the country, California, Texas, Florida, there's numerous bases, military bases, Army, Navy, Air Force, that you could pull in staff who are those preferred candidates like I just alluded to. But we don't have that issue up here. What we have is there's Hanscom. And I could hire someone from Raytheon or Lockheed, like those companies I mentioned already, but they're used to making things. I'm not making anything. I'm not producing anything. I don't manufacture anything. And they've had a very hard time trying to do the work that we do. What I'm looking for is people who have the technical background. They might not have a security clearance. That's fine. I can help you get a security clearance. You just need to have the ability to obtain a clearance. So let's use an example of a software engineer. You may be a software engineer. You may have the technical background, but you don't have a DoD background, the Department of Defense, in case you were wondering what that was, or a military background. My argument to that is, what if you were a cook in the military? You'll have a security clearance. So great, could I hire you? No, because I'd have to teach you how to be a software engineer. I can't do that. If you're a software engineer, I can help you get a security clearance. That's so much easier than trying to teach the cook how to be a software engineer. So I'm very open about trying to hire technical folks. Doesn't matter your background. If you have a technical skill set and you saw the list of positions that we have there, I bet you we fit pretty much everyone that's on this chat room right now. So the only kicker behind it is you have to be sponsored by your employer to get a security clearance. This isn't like a credit card, like, oh, I'll just mail one in and I'll get one. No, someone's going to sponsor you along the way. So you can do this. We can set up interviews. We can get folks hired. And once people are hired, and it's a contingent hire, and that was finger quotes there in case you didn't see my finger quotes. The contingent hire is contingent upon you getting a security clearance. Now, as you can see from the bullet at the very bottom there, a security clearance investigation is quite lengthy. It covers the last 10 years of your life and includes everything. Now, let's keep in mind, the security investigators don't know you from a hole in the wall. All right, you can say that you've worked at a monastery the last 20 years of your life and you've lived in the same building and taken care of the homeless and done all this great charity work. Great. They still don't know you from a hole in the wall, and they need to do their due diligence and do an investigation on you. So it inquires, where have you lived the last 10 years? Where have you worked? Who are all your direct relatives? And that includes listing social security numbers and current addresses. Let's make sure you don't have a cousin named Vladimir living in Moscow. That's what they're looking for if there's any outlying issues. So they need to vet everybody. And what they will do is, once they gather all of your information, they will run it through their various databases and they'll see if there's any red flags pop up. Normally, there's no red flags. And normally it takes anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to get an interim clearance. So it's not that long of time, but you can't start work until you have a clearance. So that's why it comes back down to having a contingent offer. Now, the work I've talked about is all doing technical support in a military program office. As you can read from the very beginning of this slide, there's non-program related work at Hanscom. There is a base exchange. The military jargon is BX, and that's their glorified supermarket. That's what it is. So if people come from that retail background, they've got this ginormous, it's kind of like Ocean State Job Lot, to put it in terms. They've got furniture, they've got everything there. This isn't just like a market basket type of thing. They sell everything there. So if you come from a retail background and I'm talking about technical positions and you're like, I don't have a technical position, there's an opportunity here to work at the base exchange. Likewise, there's construction going on base all the time. These buildings on base, some of them are 40, 50 years old. They need to be upgraded. And likewise, they're trying to put up new structures and develop, upgrade new rooms that are already offices, not rooms, excuse me, offices within the buildings. So there's a lot of construction work that's going on. There's also base housing. So there's real estate opportunities out there. And hotel, there's a hotel on base. And so people are used to making reservations, reservation desk, customer support in that way. Base housing could be an opportunity. They also have back in the day, each building had their own IT person. In terms that made sense. If you had an issue, you just went down to the first floor, talked to Jimmy. Jimmy, I got a problem. Jimmy would come upstairs and fix your computer. They did away with that. They did away with that at the pandemic, and now there's one IT office for the entire base. Makes it a little more challenging because you can't go downstairs and ask Jimmy a question, but there's a company there that you can see listed, SMS Data Products. They have the base IT support contract. So if you come from that networking, system admin, help desk environment, possibly look into SMS Data Products as a possible opportunity. And likewise, as you can well imagine, it is a base, it's an active military base, so there is security on base. They do have some military police on base, but they also outsource because it is a 24/7, 365-day operation, and they just don't have that many military police to run that type of operation. So they kind of outsource with a company called Securitas. So if you come from that criminal justice security background, there's opportunities there as well. Now, for the positions I talked about for program office related technical positions, my best advice would be to make contact with the respective company recruiters, the companies that I listed earlier, the Credence, the Applied Resource Solutions, Booz Allen, things like that, that list. You can reach out to the recruiting teams and those very companies, and they can help you. You can go on their website, you can see the current openings, you can apply on the websites. You can certainly and hopefully talk to someone, talk a little bit more about that, at least make a connection. And that's what this is all about, really. It's just trying to learn some more information. And hey, I see a position out there I'm interested in. I want to talk to someone. Here's the way to go about doing that. Now, for the other non-program related work, the help desk, the base security, for those type of positions, you're going to have, there's two ways of going about doing this. The first one is this, and the bottom afflicmic. You can see afflicmic in the middle of it. This is the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, otherwise known as Hanscom. They have their own website. Like everyone else, they're hiring. They just had a job fair back on May 23rd. Not if anyone here attended it. They're doing job fairs like every 45 to 60 days. And because they're hiring for all different types of positions. So Hanscom is trying to cut themselves out of the government a little bit and do their own hiring. And I'll get to that in a second here and just in this next slide. Normally, if you just want to get any government job whatsoever, normally it would be Hanscom, it would be work in Boston, it would be working for just anything that is government related. You would have to go to the USA Jobs website. Look at me, I got ahead of one slide. usajobs.gov. That's the one applicant tracking system the government uses. You can apply to any government job there at any location around the country. The only problem is you can't talk to anyone because it's a government website. And as you can see my line there at the bottom, their process is slow, painfully slow. Whereas if you apply to my website, I would get back to you within 24, 48 hours if I'm really swamped, okay? These folks, you might hear back in 3 months. That's how slow they are. So knowing how slow they are, that's why Hanscom cut themselves out and created their own afflicmic, darn touchscreen. I touched the screen, it's changed on me. I didn't want that. That's why afflicmic created their own website for hiring. They wanted to try to expedite the process here. So you may, as we move ahead, see other Hanscom hiring events, whether here at Hanscom or they've also got offices in downtown Boston. You may see a Boston event. So my advice is go on to the afflicmic site, see what's available now. You can also go on the USA Jobs website. There's nothing preventing you from doing it, but you just need to know that's painfully slow. But at least you can see through all the jobs, the scope and the breadth of all of the different types of positions across the Commonwealth that they have. And if you want to look more outside of the Commonwealth, absolutely. It will show you New Hampshire. It will show you Connecticut, Rhode Island. And if, hey, you know what? I want to retire down to Florida in a couple of years. Guess what? They'll show you Florida as well. They'll show you everything on the USA Jobs website. Whereas the afflicmic site is going to be more Hanscom centric. So the work at Hanscom is not going away anytime soon. This is all active work on active military programs, like I alluded to, the AWACS aircraft. That's not going away. It's needed every day. Like I said earlier, this is not research and development. We're not trying to create the newest Star Wars laser to touch Mars. We are working on military programs the men and women in the military are using as we sit here right now. This work will be going on for many, many, many years to come. As a result, there's many opportunities out there for new staff. As we all know, we've been in the pandemic the last couple of years. All right. As I said early on, I've been doing this for 22 years. And over these last 3 years through the pandemic, I've never seen so much growth in government contracting in my life. It's been mind-boggling because all of these military programs need support, need more support. So if all of you are looking for a change, I would point you in this direction to at least look at the opportunities that are out there. It doesn't matter the age of the candidate. All employers are looking for qualified candidates. So there's opportunities out there at this little place called Hanscom that not many people know about. So the opportunities could be out there for you. I've got my name here. I've got my contact information, my website listed. I'm a resource person for you now. So you want to contact me later on today? Great. You want to do it? I want to digest this a little bit, Steve, and I'll get back to you. Great. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm going to be around for a while. I love the opportunity to assist folks who are looking to make a transition and possibly get into this. It's one of the things that gives me that warm fuzzy that I get to go to work every day and try to help people out, find a new position that is rewarding for them in a career point of view. So if the opportunity's out there for you, I'd love to chat. If not, you're like, you know what? I'm all set. Sorry, better luck elsewhere. So with that, Robert, that's the end of my slides. My screen is blank.
All right, so folks, let's give Stephen a big virtual round of applause for a wonderful presentation. At this point, I'm going to stop the recording and we'll transition into the Q&A. So one moment.